Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Wild Woman podcast as we approach the end of 2025. I just feel that now as I come on with my lovely returning guest for a part five. Guess who it
Mm.
is? The As a friend said to me, that woman with the beautiful curly hair. When is she coming back on again? So she's back. Liz Costa is back, and she's back from another one of her amazing trips with the work that she does. And I'm going to what I'm going to do is I'm going to link here the very first interview I did with Liz because there she tells a lot of her story growing up, her near death experience, and explains her work. There is also on my channel then interview two, three, and four that you'll find. But maybe, Liz, to start off, would you just give a very quick summary of the work that you would do in your words, that you do, sorry, in your
Yeah.
words? That would be helpful.
Yeah. So I would, although I don't like labels, I would say that what I do is I work with the Earth's energy patterns that we call a grid. It's not necessarily, I've realized that when I say the word grid, people automatically think that everything's in a straight line, like it literally
Mm.
like a straight grid. And it's not like that, at least not mostly like that. But still, these are energy lines, much like we have meridians in our own bodies, and so they can be um, kind of muddled up, and they can get congested. They can have some, if things happen in certain places in the world, like battles and big political problems, wars, and um, just things that are negative for the human condition, it causes a big problem with the grid energy moving around the planet. And because we as human beings, we connect to that, which is why grounding is so healthy for us, to be barefoot and to actually connect with the planet, because that's where we get our information from about what's happening in the cosmos. It's happening all subconsciously and on a non-physical level. So it doesn't matter whether or not you know that when you're out in the world, it's happening anyway. But these places are there's certain places in the world that are very energetic. We know them as sacred spots. There's often pyramids, or there's cathedrals, there are standing stones, there are ways that the ancients have marked these places. But there's also ones that are not marked then, and some of that is on purpose, so that because when too many human beings get involved with some of that, they can actually, even with good intention, can actually cause more problems than they mean to. So
Mm.
a lot of these places are relatively unknown. And what happens with me is, because we're in this, I've been doing this for 30 years, but the last few have been enormous. Like I've never in my life done this much travel, and this much. I know we talked about this in the beginning. I
Mm.
get this. It's like a beat inside of
Mm.
me, and I just know that there's some place I need to be, and I never know what I'm going to do or what needs to happen. I don't do any research whatsoever before I go somewhere, because that would make my mind get involved. And this is not a mind thing. This is something on another level altogether. And so it has been a journey of trust. And since trust is the only way that we're going to move through this transition with any kind of grace whatsoever, I feel very privileged that I've had basically decades of experience of what it's like. And if we talk a little bit about my current trip, I'll give
Yeah.
you some examples of what happens when you either don't trust and get your head involved and try to make things happen, and how that usually turns out. Uh, and when you finally surrender and trust that it's always worked out before, and so maybe I just need to take a step back, and that always then opens up a dam of possibility and things like that. And if it once you've had that experience enough times, you start to trust your own trust, and that is what kind of needs to happen, which is why talking about these things is great. and it's important for people to understand what maybe they can aspire to do and why it's important. But until you actually embody that and have experiences of it yourself, it's just words. It's just
Yeah.
going to be another time you can beat yourself up because someone else has a skill or someone else can do something but not me. And you get into this place of, well, I'm not like that, or I don't have any of that. And we all do. We all have all of this, and more of it is coming online. So the more we can practice trust in our regular daily life, however that looks, the more prepared we'll be for when these other gifts come online for each person, and then you know what to do with it.
Yes.
Because if
Yeah.
you're too caught up in the ego and the mind, and this is one of the reasons why I don't write books and do courses and all these things, not because any of that's bad, but purely because I know, and I was really, this was made very clear to me in the beginning, that if I do that, then I will compromise my ability to trust, because I will have an agenda, whether I want to or not. No matter how hard I try, if there is money involved or prestige involved or acknowledgement involved, I will have a subconscious agenda. And so I have to be clean of all of that in order for any of this to be of any value.
Yeah.
So I hope that made some
No,
sense.
that's beautiful. Actually, it just reminds me because you're bringing me back to the very first time we spoke, and I was going, gosh, when you mentioned the meridians again, somehow that brings it more alive for me, and maybe people can relate to that if you've ever had acupuncture or just knowing
Exactly.
our energetic system. But a question that just came to me is, with these blocks, and we can have energetic and emotional blocks within ourselves, we were talking about that are releasing now. Why does the earth need the support of humans to do it? Surely the earth could just shift a lot of this itself. Why is it?
Well, it could, but you see, we are in a relationship. And unless we as a species decide that we want something better than what we've had, it can't be done to us. It's just not how this works. The reason why these things are, that these kind of negative things, and we're in a position where there's not such nice things that are going on that seem to be coming at us and we're being forced to do, is kind of because we've taken this role of passivity, and we give our power away to something other than our own inner beat, our own autonomy. And
Yeah.
this energy that we're moving into, which will be in the Aquarian age, is an autonomous energy. It's an energy of empowerment. It's not a parental energy anymore, where we say, okay, save me, help me, fix me, heal me. All of
Mm.
this we are capable of doing for ourselves when we choose to take that power back. So what part of what I do is really making a stand for, this is something that we want. There is more than me doing this exact work, but all kinds of other things as well, energetically, to be in partnership. Of course, the planet
Mm.
could just
That's what
shake
I
us
mean.
all off
Yeah.
if it
Yeah.
wants to. This is not because the planet isn't
Mm.
powerful enough. This is about us taking responsibility for the world we want to live in, and taking steps towards that, as opposed to being passive about it and hoping someone else is going to take care of it. And that
Mm.
also has to do with the physical body, because this is where we start. This is kind of our very local universe, is our own body, our
Yes.
family, our own career, or whatever your day to day is like. You are responsible. You are the center character in that. So if there are problems that are happening and in a pattern, they're consistently happening. You consistently have problems in relationships. You consistently have problems with money, or then really, the unifying factor there is you. So, you
I
know,
know.
I
Sorry,
mean,
it's not always funny, but
it's not easy to hear, or
Mm.
figure out what to do about
Mm.
that. But that's the bottom line, and that's the beginning of understanding what sovereignty actually means. It means that it starts with me. I'm the star role in my own movie. So if I'm listening to what's happening inside of me, and I get a really, and this when it first started happening, it was really odd, you know, that all of a sudden I had this super strong desire to travel to someplace, and I didn't necessarily have something about that place that was drawing me. I just knew that I really needed to go, and then I would see all kinds of things. Like all of a sudden there'd be movies about that place, or someone would send me a book to read and it'd be about that place, or I'd see a bus with a big ad on the side of it which was about that place. Like it could go in a million different ways. And I started to decide, well, maybe I should pay attention to all of this, right? Because I'm at the center of it. It's coming to me, not to someone else. It's me. So what would happen if I started to take a risk and see what would happen if I took a step in that direction? And that's how it began. And it wasn't until years later that I realized there's a pattern emerging here. There's something going on that I'm involved in, that I started to actually work out over time about the whole system and how the energy is working and where it's coming from, and how it comes from the cosmos, but then up through the center of the planet. And that is where we make our changes, our consciousness changes, our biological changes, all the things that have to happen for us to go into a new age. The energy is different. So we have to change in order to be in alignment or not. And if you choose not to, if you fight it and resist it, as opposed to actually, like we had said earlier, a lot of not so nice stuff is bubbling to the surface now. And that's both in our personal lives and globally. It's easier to see globally, and it's easier to see in other people than it is to see in ourselves, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's the way we work as beings, which is fine. But eventually we need to get to the place where we go, okay, maybe I'm also involved in that. And then it's the risky business of, what do I get involved with? And what do I allow to just move through without doing anything with? And that's that interesting place of that. So when we've talked on the last few about the shifts in the male female energy, right? This is actually a massive problem on our planet, and has been for a long time, this imbalance in the feminine and the masculine. And so that is changing. And where I was just
maybe to talk a bit about that. Yes, please.
Yeah, so this most recent trip was to Romania. And I've never been to Romania, and I've never really, until last year, never really had any much reason to. Like, it wasn't like it was a strong desire. And to be fair, Romania borders Ukraine. It's not the kind of place I would necessarily say, hey, let's go there on holiday, at this moment, But it was very, very clear. And like I said, I get several hits, several things that let me know that's the target.
Sorry, just before you go into Romania, just to give an example of some of those again, because I know you mentioned, but what were the signals you got this time that made you feel Romania?
Oh gosh, I got to think back, because it was about a year ago. And it first came up for me. I knew about there's a pyramid complex in Romania, and I knew about that for probably, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. There's a whole series of books that are about it, but that was, like I said, many years ago. But it came up again for me a year ago, that it would be very useful for me to go there and connect with. Nobody can go into the pyramid or anything. It's controlled by the military, so they deny that it's even there, because it's underneath a mountain, so you can't see it anyway. And there's an entrance, but they keep that for themselves. But there is a big rock on the top of this plateau that is, it is in quotation marks called the Romanian Sphinx. Now, this is, you can look it up, and it is a huge rock, and they say that it's just a wind-blown thing that just happens to look like it has a face, and you have to look at it from a certain angle and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not going to get into what is there and what isn't there. I know energetically what's there, so it doesn't really matter, but that's a marker. That boulder that looks like that is a marker for that place.
Okay.
And so it came up about a year ago that it would be a good idea for me to go to that place. But then I have to kind of wait. This isn't something that I can just go, right, I'm going to go tomorrow. I have to wait, and I have to see whether or not I get any kind of other things that come in. So, for example, the man who wrote the books for it years and years and years ago, I had contacted him a while back, and 2 years ago he contacted me and said, would you like to go? And of course I would have loved to go with him because he's got all the contacts. But my daughter had just had a baby, and she was in postpartum depression, and she needed to come home and be nurtured and cared for. And I had to make a choice. And as far as I'm concerned, there was no choice. So I knew, because he had contacted me, that was a really big thing from the universe saying, you're going to need to go there at some point. Maybe it's not
ready.
right now, but you are going to need to go there. And then little things would happen. Like I was in a hotel room, and in somewhere in Europe, and it wasn't even in English, but I was able to get like a BBC channel, and it was a show about an English woman who moved to Romania, of all places, of all things that the show could be about. Then I had a friend of mine who said, oh, I'm so excited. I've been trying to get somebody to clean my house, and I haven't been able to find anybody. Everybody fell through, but I finally found this lovely Romanian lady who's going to come. So it was just, so they sound really small, and I get that, but it's like, they're constant little reminders about, remember, you need to go, you need to go, you need to go. But I never know, again, where. In this case, yes, I believed, and this was what I was going to say to you before about letting this get involved, that where I needed to get to was that plateau where that Sphinx head is, because I know that there is a complex down there. Now, from the books, I know that this complex is connected to Giza. And I also know that, and this happened to me back in 1996, that I was shown that when we get very close to a big transition on this planet, I was going to experience, everyone was going to experience, but I would notice that there were 7 different pyramids, one of them being on Mars, that would activate. Now, at that time, 1996, I knew very little, and I didn't know anything about Mars, anything, right? Like, so to me, this was just crazy talk, but I just had it there, and I never forgot it. So then it became very clear at the beginning of this year that it had to be this year, and it had to be towards the end of this year. Like, I knew exactly when I needed to go. And so little did I know then, because I couldn't have possibly known then, that there was going to be this new heavenly body, or whatever it is, that was going to come into the solar system in the summer.
This 3i Atlas.
This is 3i Atlas. So the only thing that kind of really like hit me when I heard about that was, I knew that in 2017, when the divine feminine really anchored into the new grid here, which was right when they set Notre Dame on fire, that also coincided with one of these interstellar objects, which also that came in 2017. So I just kind of note these things. They're just sort of in my consciousness. I try not to make too strong connections, because I don't want to be going off on mental tangents, but it was a curiosity. And so when that happened, I thought, well, that's interesting, because I'm already organized and set to go to Romania right at the time when Atlas was going to perihelion in the sun. So literally the days. It wasn't.
Yeah.
That's where I was going to be when that was happening. So I thought, okay, there's more to this than just, you know, a coincidence. After a while, coincidence becomes a dirty word because there is no such thing. It's such an intelligent design that we have that is completely organized for us. And we either are able to tap into that and ride it, or we stay separate. And of course, this separation issue is exactly what all of this transformation is about. Feeling separate from the universal flow, from being part of the whole of creation, was our fall. If you want to use a more religious term, it was our fall. And from that one thought that we are no longer, that we're not part of all of creation, that we are separate from it, all the rest of this has been created. So we are now undoing that by restoring our sense of being in a unified field, of unified creative field. And that's what happens when you really connect with your inner beat. It's not your beat, like as in your personality's beat. It's your place in the greater beat. And you are acknowledging it, and you are following it, and you are trusting it. And it often makes no logical sense. And the mind doesn't like it because we want to be certain about things. We want to really understand things and know all the risks and everything before we take a step. And this way of being does not work like that. So you have to work through all of your resistance to that. So I have this idea that I need to go to this plateau. So I decide that because it's 2,000 meters up, that it would probably be best if I had a guide of some kind, because I'm not like a mountaineer or a hiker. I don't really know the terrain. I've never been there. So I decided that I would hire like a group, like a guide to take there. So I did, and I arranged everything. What we decided to do, because my husband came with me this time, was that we were going to go in several days early, and we were going to do all of that. And then we were going to join a group tour, small group tour, that went through more of Romania, so that we could see Romania, since we were going anyway, and we could bring along a family member who's going through some stuff, and we thought would really be good. Like, we just thought the whole thing would work. So everything was set until a week before I was going to leave. Then the tour company called me up and said, they didn't call me up. They just sent me an email and said, we're canceling it. We're just canceling it, with no explanation, no nothing, no way for me to even do anything. I sent emails, why, can we just do it a different day? Anything. Silence, absolutely nothing. I was so frustrated, and I thought, okay, all right, I'm just going to go. We're just going to get our boots on the ground, and then we're going to figure it out. I'm going to find a way to get up to that plateau. But wouldn't you know that I get there to find out that they had a freak snowstorm up on this plateau just a few days before I got there, and 4 people had died on this plateau.
Oh my
So
God.
mountain rescue wasn't letting anybody go up there. So I was just, wow, okay, I came all this way. I was so sure that that's the place that I needed to go, that I allowed myself to get disappointed and felt like I must have missed something. I'm off my beat. I don't know what happened. And this is not a good thing to do, because as soon as you start doubting the bigger intelligence, you end up going into mental spaces that are not going to take you anywhere you want to be. So I pretty quickly said, all right, I went into meditation and I tried to work out, okay, so what do I do now? Because I can't get there. And the message was really clear. You have to get underground. So, okay, so here I am in a strange country.
That's all you get. You have to get underground.
Got to go underground. So what am I supposed to do? Go. Like, I don't, so now I just have to sit there with that. So then I found out something interesting. And that was that Romania and Bulgaria are very close to each other. They're separated by the Danube River. And it was possible to take a day trip into Bulgaria And in Bulgaria, they have a lot of monasteries moved into caves when the Ottoman Turks came through. So the Ottoman Turks came and destroyed all of the Christian churches and everything in Bulgaria. And so the monks had to do something. And so that's what they did. They climbed up and they dug out caves and they made their churches in these high places so that they could be safe. So I thought, okay, cave. What if I go into Bulgaria and I go into one or two of these caves? So I had to find a guide that would take me to Bulgaria, and I go and do this, and I climb up and I go into this cave, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, nope.
Oh my God.
It's not this. I mean, it was amazing. I learned a lot about the history and got shown some amazing things, but it wasn't what I needed to do. So I thought, okay, well, another day gone. And now what? Now I'm getting close to us going on this group trip. And at that point, I'm not going to have freedom to just go and do whatever I need to do because I'm on their schedule. And like I said, we have another family member with us. So I have to stick with whatever the group is doing. And this is the first time I've had so much interference with what I'm doing. It was a new experience for me. I get some, but this was like wall after wall after wall. So it got to the point where we finally got to the point where even the guide that we had to Bulgaria, he said, no, there's nobody that can go up on the big hikes at this point because of this big storm, and there's just too much ice up there and it's too dangerous. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to get up on the plateau. So I finally had no choice but to surrender and go, well, I don't know what I'm doing here then. I don't know why I'm here. I mean, maybe I just have to have my feet on the ground in Romania, and it doesn't matter where I go. But I had to just let go of the whole thing and go on the group journey like any other tourist, and just be there. I mean, there was nothing more I could do. I had put everything into it. Wouldn't you know that and I didn't even know the itinerary of the group thing because I was too busy on my own itinerary and my own stuff. That was really irrelevant to me. So I didn't even look at it. Anyway, on the third day or fourth day, I don't know what it was, we end up going, they take us, the group takes us to a salt mine. And I thought, wait a minute, that has to be underground, right? But I don't know. Nothing else has worked out. I'm just going to chill out about this because maybe it's just another touristy day. So we go into this mine, and the very first place they take you is this, what they call the echo chamber, where they just kind of make noises and you hear them because it's a huge cavern. But as soon as we walked in, on the wall, I could see an effigy of Mother Mary. I could see it in the walls. The walls are all salt, and they have interesting, intricate patterns on them. They're absolutely stunning. But I saw her, and she is a symbol for me. She's a symbol of the feminine. She's a symbol that I'm on the right track. That's probably the best way for me to put it, because I've had a lot of training in divine feminine and goddess type practices, ancient practices. And she became a symbol for me probably 15 years ago, of not so much a religious symbol, but a symbol of my beat, if that makes sense. She is the
sort of connected to that lineage
of nurture, of creation, of the total creative force that women have, right? We are the creators of life in our species. So this is what happens. I see her effigy, and I think to myself, oh, it's just a play of the light. I maybe not. And, because everything had been not going very well. I wasn't in the greatest space to be magical in my thinking. It was just like, oh, I don't know. No one else saw that. It was just me. So anyway, we leave that room and we go to the room right behind us. So you can imagine the wall I saw the effigy on, we were on the room right backing to it. And in there, the miners had built an altar inside, and they had put it behind bars so nobody could touch it. And they had carved a life-size effigy of the Mother Mary out of salt.
On the other side. Wow.
just on the other side
Wow.
of the what I saw. Now, when I saw that, that was it. My heart just blew wide open. I knew I was in the right place because it was very, very clear. These are my symbols, right? I know what I'm. So
This is for you.
now I was broken open, and so the rest of it could come in. And all I knew was that I needed to get as deep as possible. So I went 100 meters down. That's the deep, it's very deep into the planet. They were whoever it was that gives me my information was very clear about, you have to go down, you have to be underground. And I was underground, 100 meters down. And at the very bottom of the mine is a lake. And because water is dripping down through the mountain and it collects down at the bottom. And at the bottom, it is a touristy thing. So they have these little boats that you can get in, which was perfect because I was able to get in a boat in the water. I was able to touch the water, but more importantly, I was able to get my body against the walls so that I could actually feel the planet from this deep. And that was apparently what needed to happen. Of course, I couldn't have worked this out. Like, I didn't know anything
How could
about
you?
this.
I know when you
Right?
think of it, when you say it.
You
Yeah.
see, I didn't have enough trust in the beginning, and this is what it looks like. It looks like this start-stop, this, oh, I got that wrong, and and it's just really frustrating. But when I just let go of it, I was brought there. I didn't even have any say about it. I just ended up in this amazing place. And while I was down there, I was able to feel that actually this area, not necessarily the mine I was in, but in Romania and Greece, it's where the energy of the planet is shifting to. So we have a system right now. People say that the heart chakra of the planet is in Glastonbury, and it's set up already. But this is the old system. This is how it used to be. We have a whole new grid that is coming online. And this is a multi-dimensional grid. It's not a third-dimensional grid. It's different. And it doesn't necessarily work the same way. And it looks to me, and this is new because I've only just realized it myself while I was there, that the heart chakra type thing, although it'll be different than we've had, is going to be focused more in that part of the world when the whole new earth actually shows up. It's going to be there. And so it begins in Greece, which is because this is what all of this I got when I had my back to the wall. So I was able to feel it, and I could feel that it is do you know what a Fibonacci spiral is?
Yes, it goes out, yeah, the from the flower, the center of a flower, is it?
Yeah, and or like a nautilus shell, that
Yes,
kind of
yes,
so
yes,
it's
yes,
kind of tight, and then it
yes.
gets bigger and bigger, and it's a
New
very,
chambers. You're
yes,
breaking the bigger chambers all the time,
and
isn't
it's
it?
precise mathematically,
Yeah, yeah,
very precise.
yeah.
All the angles, everything is very precise. And it would appear that this Fibonacci sequence, this energetic Fibonacci sequence of the divine feminine, the divine mother type energy is really being centered there. Here's the ironic part. So where it began in the way that I was able to feel it was a place called Mount Athos, which is a peninsula in Greece. And Mount Athos is a place where it's all monasteries. The whole entire peninsula is monasteries, and it's really just for pilgrims that go there. But guess what? The entire peninsula, all of the monasteries are dedicated to the Great Mother. But here's the ironic part. Women are not allowed on that peninsula. We cannot step foot on that peninsula or in any of those monasteries at all. To the extent that even any animals that they have, any dogs or pets, all have to be male.
What?
Yeah. So this is the extent to which the patriarchy will go. But in their wisdom, they know exactly where the power lies, but they don't want women to have any power and to have any of their power back, right? That's what's changing. So I hope in my lifetime I get to see the
So
first woman.
you can't go there.
You can't, I can't go there. I can't
What
go.
would happen if you try? What would happen?
They
Just
won't let you off the ferry. So, because you have to take the
insane,
ferry.
isn't it,
But
now?
yeah, you have to get permission. Everybody has to get permission to go there. And normally it's just for religious pilgrims, people who are coming to the monasteries to pray or learn, or
To be men, you're
yeah,
saying.
and they're all men, so that they could learn how to work with the mother energy. Like, can we just think about that for a minute? But anyway, so the spiral comes from there, and it starts to work its way through Mount Olympus, which I think is going to be a very important place in the future, and then work its way kind of through Bosnia, and then circle back around and come into Romania, and it starts to do its spiral. So what I'm actually realizing is that we are with this whole new multidimensional grid, which again is not flat by any stretch. It moves in every single direction. So it goes into the planet, it goes up to the galactic core. It's the geometry of it is far too complicated for someone like me to work out, but I can feel.
You see it, or you feel it,
I
obviously.
feel it. I feel it. I feel things more than I see them. I occasionally see things, but mostly I'm kinesthetic. And then that kinesthesia will then translate into something that my brain can get my head around, because God is a mystery. The whole universal intelligence is a mystery, and it will remain a mystery. There is only so much that we will be able to know as well, in these bodies. So we do the best we can with what we can decipher from that, knowing that there'll be some distortion that's in it. There always will be a distortion in it. But that's the reason why I apparently needed to get really deep into the planet. So here I was thinking I needed to be at the top 2,000 meters up when I needed to be 100 meters down.
Incredible. It's incredible.
But that's what happens when you really get into trust and you just go. And this happened to me in Sardinia as well, where I just went. I mean, I ended up going 3 times because I kept getting different information about where I needed to go next. And now I have more information, and I will be going back to Romania probably next summer to continue. But I really think that part of the world is important. And because the patriarchy, like, look at what's going on in the Ukraine, it's all part of that clearing, that purging out of a part of the world that has been really patriarchal in a very, very negative way for a very long time. And that is being purged. And so being part of that, I think, is what I was doing there.
Yeah. Well, what was the point, just to be shown that you know that, or just you're interacting energetically? Like, what,
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure exactly. I have been told by other people that there are some people who were born kind of during the time that I was born, that came with certain codes in their field, in their system. I can't prove that. I don't know. And again, I don't really have to get caught up, and that's it.
I know.
It starts moving into an egoic place, and I don't really need to have that be true. But is it possible that it's true? Sure. Of course it is. That I just carry something that when I go to these places, I'm able to interact somehow at a completely non-physical level, and something changes as a result. While I was there, in several different places that we stopped, I could feel a lot of tremor and a lot of movement underneath the ground. No one else was feeling it, which surprised me, because it was very physical for me. It wasn't like a meditative state where you're kind of in another zone. It wasn't. It was like while I was taking a shower, or while I was getting ready for bed, or something like that. Like, it was very physical. So I don't know if there is something going on underground there, there's movement, because what I did find out is that the pyramid complex there is connected to Giza, which I knew because of the books. So I don't know that personally, but they say that in the books. But what I did find out was that it's not just those two. There is another pyramid type complex in Tibet, and that is also connected underground to these two. So there's something. So remember I said earlier that there were going to be 7 pyramids that we're going to initiate at some point. My feeling is that these 3 are very much a part of that 7, because I was, other than Mars, I was not shown what were the other 6. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because think about the timing. All of that is going on at the same time that 3i Atlas was passing right by Mars. And not only did it pass Mars, it went up to the sun and went back to Mars. That's why 3i Atlas is such an anomaly, because it's doing things. They keep trying to call it a comet because that is what we're used to seeing in our sky. But it cannot be a comet. It doesn't have a tail like a comet, and it certainly doesn't act like one. And I'm not an astrophysicist. I'm seeing images. I'm talking to people who do have some background in astronomy, and they're saying they can't explain the behavior of this thing because it slows down and it speeds up and it changes color and it does all these things. But the more important thing for me was that it seemed to have a beeline for Mars. And I just couldn't help but wonder if there's an activation that is starting, right? It's just staying on a meta scale and looking at the whole picture.
Yeah.
So
And do you feel it, the 3i? Would you now, if you tune into 3i Atlas, and I know there's loads of people talking about different, like, do you sense it as like a consciousness and intelligence, or do you tune in, or do you just?
I have tried to tune in. It was not a pleasant experience for me. So I decided that I was kind of being told otherwise, that that's not my place to connect it. Because if I make a connection, it usually works. I don't usually have too much trouble with that. But this time I could have pushed myself through it, but that's not how I work. If I'm not welcome or invited in, then I don't belong there. So I'm not going to get involved with that. So I stay like everybody else, just getting whatever information we get and just making my own very light touch conclusions about what might be going on here, because I didn't know about the Mount Kailash connection. Mount Kailash is the one in Tibet. I didn't know that was actually connected to Romania and Giza the way that it apparently is. So this is pretty significant synchronicity from my perspective.
Yeah, that's big. And there has been talk, I don't follow it a lot, but I know I was listening to someone talking about Giza. There's been some stuff going on there as well, isn't there? There's a lot happening.
There's a lot happening there because there are complexes underneath these pyramids. It just so happens that Giza is exposed, whereas say Bosnia and Romania and Kailash, the pyramids are structures underneath are not exposed. But it doesn't mean they aren't there. It just means that they're not exposed because they weren't built in sand. So the Giza was also covered in sand, and it was excavated out. So are we going to excavate these mountains? I doubt it. In Bosnia, they're going underneath. They started miles away from the pyramid, and the tunnel system, there is a tunnel system, and that tunnel system is being completely cleared out, and they have miles to go before they get to the actual pyramid itself. And that work is continuing, and it will continue because they don't have permission from the government to do anything from above. So they're going from underneath. In Romania, no one's doing anything, and nobody but the military, as far as I know, is doing anything. Kailash, nobody can get near Kailash. And you're not even allowed to really, there's a very small bit of it that you're allowed to climb, but you can't get to the top. Nobody, the government won't allow it because so many people have died trying. So there's a lot of interesting energy type things, unexplainable things that go on. And you were mentioning Giza. There's been a lot of big, not only that they have found that, through their LiDAR, that there is a complex underneath.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to happen in all of these places at some point in time, as it's important for that to come into the consciousness. And what is the parameter there? Us. It's about what we can handle about our own history. And that is also what Three Eye Atlas, I believe, is doing. It's a paradigm changer. Somehow it's going to change the way that we see ourselves in the cosmos, because
Yeah.
we've been kind of under quarantine, believing that we're it, right? We're the pinnacle of what God could create. Come on. It blows my mind that people can even go there, but
I
I'm,
know.
you know,
Yeah.
maybe a bit different than most people. But
You've had quite a different life. Yeah.
you think? Yeah. So things like that don't ruffle my feathers, but they will for a lot of people. So we have to be ready for this, because otherwise it's just damaging. Where we're trying to raise our consciousness, not cause chaos and psychotic episodes all
Yeah.
throughout the planet, right?
Yeah.
So these things are just touch points, ways people can, if they're interested, to start to expand their view of themselves, and then us as a species, and then our planetary place in the cosmos, because we do have a place in the cosmos once we stop trying to kill everything in our path, right?
Yes.
Everything that we don't recognize, or everything that we're scared of, we try to kill it.
Yeah.
So we're a danger to the rest of the cosmos in our current
That's why
condition.
we were kept in a zombie state before. But when you're talking there, and even about, you were talking about somebody saying, whether the light codes or the codes that you carried, and whether that is or isn't the case that brought you there. And you were talking about, the grid and how we pick up from the earth, that's where we get our information. Like, it feels is part of this and our preparation, our own, like, I feel it, I've experienced it, like lights going on. I don't know what, that sounds a bit mad, but I'm feeling shifts in me in terms of awareness, or things I sense or feel. And like you said, I'm starting to trust, and intuition and instincts coming online more. So is this maybe part of that shift, that we have to be activated in some way to a certain level, so
For
that we
sure.
can hold, like, I would have a much, when you speak, I can nearly feel it in my body. I'm like, there's no mental, what's she talking about? It's just, I can feel it as a sense of knowing or something.
Exactly.
So is it like that's what, I suppose, the greater intelligence is,
Yes.
because we're all connected and we're all one?
Yeah. So anything that any one of us do,
Yeah.
especially when it's in the grid, it passes to everyone who's open to receive it. And so just to have a little bit of balance on reception, receiving is a feminine trait. We all have a feminine aspect. Even men, we all have a feminine aspect and a male aspect. But being able to receive is part of the feminine aspect. So the more that comes online for each person, because it's now in the grid, it is fully
Yes.
there. So
Wow.
it's available for anyone who's ready, because receiving love and receiving those intuitive hits, which are basically just love bombs in my mind, is an aspect of receiving. You have to be willing. And because self-worth is such a huge issue for humanity, we tend to think we're not good enough for that, or we don't deserve, I haven't done anything to deserve that, or any other way that we try to abuse ourselves around whether or not we're worthy of receiving, whether that's money or love or anything else. And that is what is on the chopping board right now, is this sense of self-worth and not being willing to receive, because this feminine energy is coming into everyone, and that's a receptive energy. That's what a woman is, she's the nurturer. She accepts and receives and then gives from that place of reception. So we all have to pick up that again, because that's natural for us to do that. So the new grid, and everything that I've been doing and other people have been doing for years now, is to make this transition, as people shift these things about themselves, more smooth, so that it's not so jarring all the time. So we don't have to have huge events catastrophic events that force people to reevaluate their values and these kinds of things. It doesn't have to be so cataclysmic. That's what my prayer is. My prayer is that as we move through this, it doesn't have to be so difficult, and it can be a graceful experience for people. That is my true honorable hope for everyone, because we will go through it, whether we take the easy path or the hard path. You know, we are going to go through it, and whether or not we survive it physically, in my world, in my belief system, is relatively irrelevant, because we're eternal beings. But at the same time, it'd be really cool to consciously go through it, and to be able to have these memories in our own personal Akashic memory record, which moves through us and with us in our whole journey as a soul. We don't ever lose it. In this incarnation, we have lost our memories, but they're still there. We just have lost that connection because we feel that we're separate from everything. I end where my skin ends, right? But every single thought that you have affects everybody around you. Just because you think you're keeping it inside doesn't mean that if you're having harmful thoughts, damaging thoughts, attack thoughts towards self or other, they're doing something. They're doing some kind of harm. And so being able to find some discipline on where you let your mind go is an important aspect of this transition as well. And that happened to me while I was there. I let my mind get involved way too much in what I thought I was supposed to do because I read some books 10 years ago. It was irrelevant, really, to what I was there to do. But you see, once it's in the mental body, this is the reason why I've stopped doing all that. I don't research anything. I don't want to know anybody else's. I mean, everyone's entitled to their own studies and opinion and all that. I would never deny anybody that. But I have to not have all of that on me when I go to these places, so that I don't do what happened to me this time. And I could really see it's really taught me a lot.
It was a hard one though, because
This was a
like it's
hard
hard
one.
not to. You get something just cancelled and you're gonna go and probably surrounded by most people, you know, if you were to share it, will go, oh my God, what do we do? So it is when you talk about that inner sovereignty and listening, it's almost like you really have to, because our world is still very much in the mental. So if you go
Yes.
out, it's just going to feed that more, and it almost, as you said, you could spiral. So
Right.
talk
Right.
about sovereignty, like it's really bringing it in. I have to listen to what I'm hearing or feeling or
Only.
knowing, not what
Only.
anyone else is saying, only
Yeah.
because it's for
Yeah.
you. I
Yeah.
think it's the
Yeah.
other, you know, when you were describing how we're as well, where, and you'd said it before, I just kept getting an image there when you're talking of us and the earth being the antennae, you know, as a physical body for the earth's sort of system or energetic system, that if all of this so is shifting and we're clearing out of the earth, and you're working with other people are doing, it has to almost, I suppose, shift through us. Is that, you know, when everybody is saying now we're going through so much, we're all clearing, there's like tsunamis of, I was saying it to you before, just waves of stuff. And I have
Yeah.
to keep saying it's leaving, it's leaving. I say that, and I think we all need to be reminded of this. This is part of it. So this is part of our role of not just our personal, but we are part of the whole. So
The whole
the way
thing.
you said, so it's just clearing through us. Just look at it
It
like that.
is. So
Is
when
that the
you
way?
ask the question, can't the planet just do it?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
if the
not through
planet
us,
just,
but
yeah.
I meant like if there's a war-torn area and there was a big, you know, blockage there. But I suppose we still feel that. I suppose it's
Well,
still
yeah,
here.
because we caused it,
We
right?
caused it, yes.
So we have to take some responsibility for that and
Yes.
show up to help
Yes.
clear it, right?
Yeah.
It's not about just letting mommy take care of it, or
Yeah.
daddy take care of it. It is, we have to acknowledge that all of these thoughts, these negative thoughts, these attacking thoughts, this feeling um of of all these things that we have from childhood and even before, of abandonment and self-worth and anger. I felt a good deal of rage while I was there. Not personally. In other words, there was nothing that was happening that I was rageful about, but I know what rage energy feels like. I mean, I think most of
Mm.
us do. And I
Mm.
could really feel that coming through the grid. So I don't know if that's like the next thing that kind of globally we're going to be having to face, this
Mm.
release of rage.
Yeah.
I would highly suggest to anyone who might experience something like that to allow it, because if you allow it safely, obviously, you know, this isn't about attacking another person. This is a rage frequency, as
Yes.
opposed to, because the mind does one thing when it feels an energy, it finds something in your life that makes that logical, and then it makes that to be the reason. So
Yeah.
we always make it about ourselves when it isn't always about us. We are participating in a planetary event, or it's a cosmic event. It's not just planetary. So we have to show up for that sometimes. Now, sometimes it's also yours at the same time, but getting caught up in the details and trying to work all that out, and how did I cause this, or whatever, that kind of conversation with yourself is not going to help. It's best, I think, to just allow it to bubble up, go and be somewhere on your own if you need to be, right? Because like I said, it needs to be safe. And just feel that rage for a while. Punch a pillow if you have to, just keep it safe, but it will dissipate. That's the thing. We get so worried that we'll never get out of it, that it's going to take us over and blow up our lives. And yes, you have to find a safe way to allow it to happen. And for some people, therapy, some people exercise, everyone has to find their
Mm.
way.
I
But
told you, I
it
found it yesterday when I was doing a strength training class and it came back.
exactly. We don't know when these things are going to
Mm.
bubble up,
Mm.
but it's the suppression in the moment of that is more of the problem than actually just finding a way to get yourself in a safe space and allow it, because it won't last forever. It will move through you. And then you're not only releasing something from your own system, you're also helping the whole planetary system to release and purge things that we don't need anymore and we don't want as part of our next iteration
Yeah.
as for our species. We are moving through an evolution that's been
Mm.
stunted for a long, long time. So now that evolution is pushing really hard, and there's this whole idea that you grow or you die. Like it's one or the other. So
Yeah.
if you can allow this evolution to move through you and not be afraid of it, then you will grow and you will evolve and you will expand. So that when all of the new stuff starts coming in, whether that's beings from another place or new technologies that are mind-boggling, that it goes against our physics, there won't be such resistance to these things. You will be in a more receptive place for it, which doesn't mean being gullible. It just means being present and using your intuition about things.
Yeah.
Because, at the same time that all this great stuff is happening, there's also other things that are happening, and AI being one of them. So this has great potential for helping in our expansion and our evolution, but not if it's continued to be used as a way of giving our power away. AI, please tell me about this. AI, please tell me about that. AI, I'm feeling like this or like that. What does it mean? Okay, you're missing the point on it's not about giving your power away now from one set of parental units to this digital parental unit. How is that any different? It's worse.
Mm.
But you have to have a certain level of consciousness to see that all of that ease, I'm going to just let AI do my homework for me or whatever, there's a huge price to pay for that. And it's not just one person that's paying the price. We all pay together. We are connected. There just isn't any other way to put it. We have to stop thinking that I'll just do my own thing, take care of me, be in my own world, whatever, and I'll be fine, and the heck with everybody else. It won't work like that.
But it's obviously showing up for some reason to show us at this particular time that there is that choice. Like you're saying, we can, here we go again. Could we give all our power away to this? But we're still feeding it. I know you've said this as well. Like, and I've noticed that I don't want to go into a whole thing with AI, but just in the little bit that I use it, the more I feed it, the more it comes back with almost what I'm,
Exactly.
I have a particular type of conversation that someone else won't be having
Right.
because it's based on
Right.
what I'm.
And it's a language, it's a learning model. That's what it does. And who do you think it's learning from? It's been learning from every one of us since we got onto the internet. And it's been tracking all of that. Everyone thinks it's new. It's not new. It's been around a long time, and it's been tracking that data and creating a digital identity for each and every person based on every single button you've pressed on your computer or your phone ever since you've had one. So that's a lot of data.
Yeah,
And there's more, that's like you said, is a whole other conversation.
yeah, you could go.
But the important bit, I think, about what's happening now is that there is a unification between the male and the female, which is very, very important balance, because they're one and the same, but they have different attributes, and they work perfectly together when they are both allowed to flower in their own way, in their own perfect vibration. They work beautifully together.
Can you talk, sorry, just talk a little bit more about that? Because something that's really come into my awareness recently is about the men as well as the masculine energy. And I know you were saying that the masculine energy, the new, let's say, or into the new grid had come in and sort of come out again, in again. Was there a bit of
Yeah.
a, what was happening there?
So that's kind of the feminine also did the same thing,
Okay.
because this is the new grid since 2012 is when the new grid
Mm,
started to be created. And
hmm.
so and like I said, it is a multi-dimensional grid, because that is what our next iteration will be like. We will be conscious of the other aspects of us that have other life streams simultaneously to this one. As so it, rather than just thinking you are made up of this body, this personality, this life, you will be consciously aware of the fact that there are other yous out there that are doing completely different things. And one of the things that I learned very early on to use, because like many people, I also had a lot of self-worth issues. It's just how it is being human. It's part of this art synthetic overlay of a matrix that we live in. It's programmed into that. That's why everybody has it to some extent. Even a narcissist, who you would say thinks the world of themselves and whatever, that's just a mirror image of having no self-worth. It's on the same exact line. It's just one extreme or the other. So
Mm,
it's still the same issue. And,
mm,
and so that it's everywhere. There's nowhere to get around it until you actually become sovereign within yourself, and you can catch yourself when you start going down those roads.
yeah. Yeah.
So when the male started to come in and out, much like the female came in
Yeah.
and out between 2012 and 2017, it was 5 years of in and out. So we've only just really got the male coming in June. And then now it will kind of do some of this vacillation. I don't think it will be 5 years. Everything is so much quicker now that I genuinely don't. I think it will be absolutely solidly in certainly by the end of 2026. That everything will be in place by the end of 2026 for the new grid, and for more of our multidimensional self, our understanding, our conscious knowing of more of ourselves to actually be able to embody. So your body has to be able to handle that,
Mm,
right? You can't, your nervous system has to be able to handle that. And right now, we are being overly distracted, overly bombarded with information that is frazzling our nervous system, trying to keep up with everything, in addition to just doing our day-to-day life. And the phone pinging, and it's
mm.
constant, right? Because we're by nature, we're creative beings, we're hungry, we want to learn, so we let all of this in. But we need to have better boundaries about, well, what is for me, what is important for me, to know and
Mm,
understand and get out of this whole, where did FOMO come from? We didn't even have that in our lexicon until we had an internet, right?
yeah.
Because we just did our
You
own
didn't
thing,
know.
right? If
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
for you, if it's meant for
yeah.
you, you will not miss it. You will be
Mm,
put in that place. If it's not today or tomorrow, it'll be next week or next month, but you will. If there's a person you absolutely are meant to meet, you will, no matter what. But if you follow your beat, then you don't put any blocks up to that happening. And it
yeah,
will, and it happens more smoothly, and you understand that there's a timing here for everything. So it's,
yeah.
it's called divine timing, but it's just a genuine plan that is in play. And we don't have the ability to see the whole plan. We're never meant to see the whole plan because we're meant to trust that there is a greater intelligence, which you can call whatever feels comfortable, that is actually running of that, and to play our role, whatever that is, which could be small. It doesn't have to be a big grand thing. Being
Mm,
kind to people, smiling, right? Like
mm.
seeing that someone needs some help and just doing it. These things are huge. They are not small, even though our ego would say so, that we are not doing anything for this. Yes, you are. If you have love in your heart and you actually allow love in and you give it, then you are absolutely 100% marching on this positive future that we are heading towards, because we are. There's no way around that. That's a done deal. We are. It's just that it won't look like that for a little while longer, or maybe
Yeah.
a lot longer. It could be a little bit more than a little, but think about how many thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years we're clearing.
I
So,
know.
you
And
know,
but what you said earlier, maybe is there just a timing to some people going, oh yeah, I'm feeling it, I'm getting what Liz is saying, and yeah, okay, I'm gonna really sort of allow this through. And there can be many going, "Ah, this means nothing
right,
to me." So there's
absolutely.
obviously a greater intelligence deciding that it's not all going to come through everyone at the one time. It sounds like there's going to be blocks, and then there's going to be others who are clear channels. So
Yeah,
that's
because
just how
not
it's
all,
going to.
because it may not be needed yet. We have to understand that there are certain things that cannot be done or change on the planet until we're ready for it. So if somebody has a particular gift or codes possibly, or anything else, they are not going to come online until it's time for them to come online. So
Yes,
there's no point in trying to force any of this, because
yes.
that's all coming from the mental space. It's got nothing to do
Mm,
with your spirit, and that's what's driving it. That's what we want to be in the driver's seat, is that higher aspect of ourself, that higher self, as opposed to the ego self that thinks logically and thinks it knows stuff and comes to conclusions which most of the time are incorrect. So, so there's just, once you see yourself going down that path and actually thinking you've got it all figured out, that's the moment when you go, oh, I don't have any of this figured out. And that's where humility starts to play its huge role. Humility in these times, extremely important for you to be able to admit that I just don't know. I really
mm.
don't know. And surrender to something bigger than you, and then be patient for those little hits to come to you. Somebody says something and you, just the way they say it, even if it's not what they say, but the way they say it reminds you of something and starts, it kind of like takes you on a path, or someone recommends a book, or you see something in the supermarket. It doesn't matter how it comes. The universe is a magical communicator, and it uses everything because everything's connected to everything else. So why wouldn't it use everything?
Yeah, I
Right?
know. It's just sometimes hard. I know. And I've seen it in my own life as well. It does sound, and I know it's probably maybe rehashing the same thing again, but the more that we like, I will just speak personally as well. I can feel and sense my intuition. I don't always listen to it, but I do my best. I can feel it more in my body. So our bodies and our senses are the way through this, aren't they? Like it's that
Yes.
shift from the mental into, is the heart as a portal. People often talk about that unity consciousness, and I sort of find now my way, if I sit, is I try and consciously, not try, consciously connect through there. That seems to be sort of the way in, is it,
Yeah.
to the senses
Yeah.
and feeling and greater
Because the intelligence and the
intelligence.
logic of the heart is
Yeah.
a whole different logic than the
Hmm.
logic of the mind, which it's like going back to school. We have to learn this. We've
Mm.
never been taught these things. And so we've got to, this is like boot camp.
Yeah.
We have to learn it on the fly. We have to just do it. And we can't have an outside source. I mean, which isn't to say you can't get help or guidance or coaching, or I'm not saying that. There's loads of people there out there who can do that. And I've had amazing teachers in my life. So that's there. But at the same time, your primary teacher, your primary place is internal, because
Yeah.
we have guidance that comes through us that's specific for us, and learning the language of how your guidance speaks to you through, mine uses music a lot of times. I'll just wake up with lyrics in my mind, and I have to just really concentrate on the particular lyrics of that, like one line in the song, so that I can figure out there's a message there, and it's not necessarily literal to what they're saying. It's how I feel maybe when I hear it, an emotion that comes up when I hear it. So it's learning those subtleties of how is the universe speaking to you, because no one
Yeah.
else can tell you that. No one else can show you that. You have to be in the moment, and you have to be present in your body and not distracted by 10,000 other things that are going on when you get hits like that, or just think I'm being silly, and that's again the self-worth comes in, that says, well, that's not important. Isn't it? You are, everybody's important, and everyone is innocent. And so anything else, that we want to think about ourselves, our head's gotten involved, because
Yeah.
it's just not the case. There's only love. Fear is something that comes from the mind. It doesn't come from the universe. If you're getting guidance and it scares you, it's not your guidance. You've got that wrong, because
Yes.
it's not how guidance works. It does not scare you. It
It's not
actually,
harsh, isn't it?
it,
It's not
it
harsh and giving
no,
out. It's yeah, it's a softer, isn't it?
it is. It's
Loving.
softer, and it's
Mm.
always love based, because that is the fundamental frequency of our whole entire creation. It's a love based creation. So
Yeah.
that is all that can be real and true and non-perishable, is the love. So giving love is never wasted, in however that looks. It doesn't matter how big or how small. And it doesn't matter how it's received, because that's not up to you. That's up to the other person's ability to receive, the other person's self-worth, not yours. So expecting some kind of a response back that is, amenable to you, and then you go, well, if I don't get that, then I'm not going to do that anymore, and I'm not going to be thoughtful anymore because they don't appreciate it. Well, if you have an agenda like that, that's not love. That's not an unconditional experience. So you shouldn't be doing it in the first place then, because you're only
Yeah.
doing it to get something back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's, again, that's another lesson on understanding what is love, what is the nature of love. Somebody asked me, I don't know, a million years ago, it feels like, but probably 40 years ago, someone asked me the question, what do you think you're doing here on this planet? Oh, and it came out of my mouth without me even thinking. And I said, oh, it's to understand the nature of love. That was it. That's really the only thing I'm here for. And everything I've done, every relationship I've had, every experience I have, adds to the richness of my true understanding of what love really is. And the emotion that we usually apply to it is like this, compared to the extent of what I have discovered that
And
love is.
how would you put that into words, what you've discovered?
It's the foundation of creation. It is
Mhm.
what everything is built on, absolutely everything. When anything is brought into form, it is brought into form on a wave of pure love. It seems to be, from my perspective, the very substance of which everything is. That total isness is love. It's not like love. It's not an emotion. It
Yes.
is, and it's also substance, and it's all of it. So when that is absent, which it can't be, because there isn't anything really but that. That's the only real thing we have. The fear-based stuff came in on a mental level. That is on a mental frequency, and that is easily manipulatable. And I think even nowadays we can see just how manipulatable we are, because we're always being suggested things, not just by people, but by algorithm. So we've basically become these algorithmic robots, because we just do what the algorithm, where the algorithms take us, like this, right? Just like robots.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we can pull back from that and at least know that it's going on, I mean, at least
Yeah.
acknowledge that we're in this soup of manipulation, that we can actually be sovereign within that. It's not dangerous as long as you can hold yourself in it, and you know what's right for you, and everybody can do whatever they need to do, right? It's not for you to change somebody else, but it's for you to be authentic with who you are and how you show up and what you're thinking.
So whatever is showing up, I often found this is one of the hardest, and is whatever is showing up in your world, as you say, your local universe, which is part of the greater, but you're in your local world doing what you're doing, and say, okay, yeah, you're doing your best. I'm connecting to my heart and listening to that. So whatever may be showing up, that could be, let's say, I don't know, someone shouting at you, or division or control or whatever. And someone was saying this to me, that it's really hard to take on board that that is happening somewhere within you, because it cannot be showing up in your world. Would you see it that way? So if someone is, I don't know, I don't want to make it about other people, but just in terms of how we move through that in a way of understanding, this is something that's coming. I can only see it because it's in me. So it's clearing for me. Would
Right,
that be how
right,
to
right. You only
navigate it?
see it. It's not because you necessarily are that person, but
Yes.
because there's a frequency of that. So let's say someone is just abusing you in some way, calling you names, doing something like
Mm.
that. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you then what I would do in a situation like that is I would first of all know that whatever's going on for them is quite difficult, and because no one would be reacting like that if something you did or said didn't touch a nerve that was difficult for them to deal with, and they only tool they have in that moment is to lash out. So number one is to have compassion for that, because we all have been there. We've all said and done things out of that pain, that we get caught up in something. We have an emotion come up that we're not ready to handle, and we lash out and we take it out on someone else. So there has to be compassion first,
Mm.
in knowing that this person is in chaos right now, because they certainly don't have peace of mind. They're not able to actually discuss this in a way that's not overly emotional. They're in pain somehow. So because if you can do that, which is not always easy to do, I understand, but if you can do that, it means that everything that happens next is coming from your heart rather than here. So you're automatically helping yourself to move through this by shifting how you are receiving whatever it is, whether it's a hug and love and affection, or it's some kind of criticism or abuse or judgment. We are wired for judgment and criticism and abuse, because that's exactly what we do to ourselves all the time. So when someone is doing that, that's where I would go with it. Have I been self-abusive lately? Am I
Mm.
finding some way to abuse myself that maybe has gone under the radar, and I've missed it.
Mm. That's
Right?
really helpful. That's really, isn't it? Rather than going, it's seeing everything. How is this all serving me? As opposed to, oh my God, look, this
Right.
person is doing whatever. It's the
Right.
sovereignty piece again, isn't it? That I just think that's so helpful. It's not easy
No.
to even know this is serving me in some way so that I can clear maybe that frequency from my system.
Right.
As you said, how am I doing this to myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really beautiful way to
So
just,
again,
yeah.
it's not about then saying, okay, it's okay for anyone to abuse me anytime they want to because they're helping me and they're teaching me. That is an extreme response
Mm,
to what I just
mm.
said.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's that
Yes.
isn't what I'm saying, right? You have boundaries.
Yes.
You should have respect because you can the same message could come across from that person without it being abusive, right? It
Yes.
could. So if it is coming across abusively, then you know that they are going through something that isn't about you. So don't make it about you. Don't take it personally. But there might still be some gold nuggets in there that if you can at least maintain your ability to stay present with it and hear it, as opposed to you also getting reactive and defensive and shutting everything down, then you'll miss your own gold nuggets. So
Yeah.
that's what presence looks like. It's being
Mm.
able to hold the whole thing at once, not just little pieces of it, but the whole entire thing. And that's a process, and we're in it.
We're
So,
in. Yeah.
we're all being raised up. We're going from
Yeah.
spiritual children
Yeah.
into spiritual teenagehood and hopefully spiritual adulthood. That's that's the path that we're on.
Yeah. Radical responsibility, as someone said to me, and I went,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. It ain't
Yeah.
no joke, but
No,
yeah.
no joke, but without the self-abuse, because
Mm.
that whole track of radical responsibility can move into self-abuse. It can
Yeah.
be, it's all about me. I did this. I created it.
Yeah.
I, I, and back in the mind again,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
why I say it's best if you can manage it, to get into compassion first about the whole entire situation. Right, we're all doing our best. We're all
Yeah.
trying. This is
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Right
It's
now
hard.
we're
It's
under
hard work. It is
yeah.
hard. It is to acknowledge that, isn't it? It ain't
It is
easy.
hard because
Yeah.
we're going right. You can imagine
Or
what
what?
goes on inside of a
Mm.
cocoon with a butterfly. That cannot be easy. When a butterfly is going through a metamorphosis in a cocoon, it's changing its entire structure. Everything about it is changing. It's dissolving and then rebuilding itself. We are doing that. That's what we're doing in our way right now. I would imagine if you could tap into a butterfly's consciousness, they would not be saying this is fun.
Yeah, I know. But look at the beauty at the end of it all. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, look
That's
at the
the
beauty.
point.
I have to, if you don't mind, just a couple of other questions that are just there in my mind, and then I will
Go
let
for
you
it.
go because I'm conscious of time. Just I know I asked about the masculine and feminine, but I just feel of asking a question on behalf of men. I don't know why. Like, as well as you're talking about the masculine coming into the grid, and I understand that, and I sort of feel it, and I don't know why. I just feel it from men around me that there's sort of this, where is my role in this? Or maybe they're going through what women were, or I don't know, a number of years ago. Are there words that you can say that we to maybe help men finding their way or who are struggling to find their way and how we can support them?
So the best way we can support them is by doing our own work and showing up as our own divine feminine. Because when we are doing that and we don't have any of those toxic feelings that many women do have towards men, it gives them that receptive space that we were talking about earlier to actually be able to drop this defensiveness that they have because I mean, many of the men that I've spoken to, they've become ashamed to be men
Oh, that's
because
awful.
they
Mm,
don't know what it is that they're
mm,
supposed to be, and that's not their fault. This has been a planned thing. This has been a planned demolition, and we've all been casualties of it. So anyone who thinks that they are on, that some pedestal and better than anyone else really hasn't gotten the right memos, because it's everybody. We've all had to do this. That when something shows up into the grid and really works into the grid, it takes several years for that to show up in the physical. So, for example, when we went through the 2012 shift was really significant, but nothing really changed on our planet that you could say was like, oh, okay, December 22nd, 2012, still the same as the 21st. January 1st, 2013, still the same as, we didn't really see physically anything start to change. We didn't see that really until 2019, 7 years later. That's when we started to see the big changes that are happening. Now, they weren't happening all along, but physically speaking, the entire globe was brought in to the change and the transition in 2019 and 2020. That was when everything happened. So it takes that long. So now we've got 2017 that the divine feminine really hooked into. So now we've got, and we're only working now at the point where women are starting to really show up without all the edgy stuff, and actually want men in their life, and they want real men in their life. They don't want men who are trying to be something they aren't just to please us. We don't want that. But these poor guys have been trying to do whatever they can because they don't understand what's going on.
Yes.
Now is going to be when the men are going to start to come online. Some of them quicker than others, because many men have knew all of these things as well. They remembered these things, but men have been just as tampered with in history as the rest of us. Mostly for men, it's they're sent to war and they're traumatized beyond belief, and then they come back and they try to be fathers. So most people have grown up without strong fathers or no fathers. So this is all part of this. How did we get here? This is all part of it. And it's what we're working to untie. So this type of reception, compassion, nurturing aspect of the woman is extremely important. And one of the energies that I connect with quite regularly is this dragon energy that's coming back online. These dragon lines, and in ancient times they were actually physical, and now it's just their energy. But will they come back physically? I have no idea. But from the standpoint of energy, most certainly they are coming back online. And if you think about, and the dragon is a feminine symbol, it's not a male symbol. And so why do you think there's so much iconography of someone, Saint somebody, George, killing a dragon? You see that everywhere, and you see it all over Romania. All over Romania. There's a lot of dragon energy in Romania. In fact, I think this is one of the areas of the world where there was a physical dragon, because my understanding is that we had the dragons had so much gold frequency in their system. Gold frequency is like a love frequency. It's very pure. And places in the world where there are big gold deposits in mountains are places, I believe anyway, that there were dragons, the actual physical dragons who had their bodies had expired in those places. And Romania, who knew? I didn't know this. They have huge gold deposits, 2 mountains that have gold deposits in Romania. No idea about that until I got there and someone told me. So all of these little bits and pieces I find fascinating. I try not to get into worrying too much about what it all means, because I'll never know what it all means. All I know is what I've got right this minute. And that's what I'm sharing.
But sorry, how does that connect it to what you were saying about men and men finding their way in the dragon energy?
So when we start actually seeing the men connect with the new male grid, which, like I said, is going to take a little bit of time because it fluctuates a little bit, but that's when all of the father line stuff clears out. So that's when all the ancestral male stuff starts to clear out. That's beginning to happen now.
Okay.
This is the next iteration. So it wouldn't surprise me for men and women that we start actually doing much more healing work around our male ancestry, whatever that is. You may or may not know what it is consciously because you maybe don't know much of your ancestry. I know that I don't because my family were refugees, so most of our family was killed. So I don't know back 4 generations, 5 generations of male what their stories were. All I
Mm,
know was that they were all killed.
okay.
So all of that is going to have to clear somehow. And
Yeah.
and now it's free to do that. It's now beginning to do that. So the men will benefit substantially from all of that that's being done. And they will start to actually remember what they're here to do. That protector, that provider, that protecting the female, protecting the feminine, that is the main role of the male. And that has become destroyed, and that's become destroyed for many, many reasons, not just one. But women have really grabbed onto that. I don't need that. I am, and it isn't about need. If you have that, just like if we have guardians that protect us that are non-physical guardians, we can relax into ourselves more. And then our reception and our compassion and our nurture and our dragon energy, which is highly creative. You just try to do something to a child with their mother there, and you will see what dragon energy looks like.
Mm, okay.
So,
Yeah.
this is not weak. This isn't
Yeah.
about weakness by any stretch of the imagination. So
Yeah.
it shouldn't be, nothing I say, I hope is going to be interpreted that way. But it's also not aggressive the way that, say, dragons in history have been shown that they're just aggressive by nature and they just destroy everything in their path. Well, isn't that what we've been told about women, that we are witches or that we are destructive in some way? We can't be trusted, that we're there's all these negative connotations about us, about women from history.
Yeah.
And so, you can start to put together a picture here and understand why men became, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to get too close there. That is ending now because we have to come into unity. That's what's going on. So, you can look back, if you believe all this, that, we have Jesus as a figure and Mary Magdalene as a figure, both of them as their divine counterpart of the other. One needed the other to do everything they did. He could not have come back without her right there. So, again, regardless of what you believe around that, that's one version of a possible story around how, when you have a unification of man and woman, equal in every single way, but with their own attributes, equal in power, but not equal in attribute, because we complement one another. We're not supposed to be clones of one another. We're not supposed to all do the same thing. We're supposed to work like a lock and a key. And that is what's happening. That's what's going to continue to happen. And so relationships are going to change completely, because the level of respect and honor that will come with relationship now is completely different than what we've had access to. If you're not ready, it's not going to anyway. But if you're receptive to that, if you're following this, if you're actually moving with how the energy is moving, then there's no way that it won't happen. It just has to.
Mm.
So
And
so the men will have a huge boost, just as the women currently have a huge boost to move in that way, unless they stay in their head, they stay in their anger, they stay in their injustice, and they don't soften into the heart, in which case they won't have access to that divine feminine piece. And they won't then be able to have these kind of twin flame relationships, because that requires softness. It requires softness in a woman. It requires that kind of receptivity, which doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean
yes, we
less
get
than.
it
It doesn't
very,
mean barefoot and pregnant. It doesn't mean the stuff that people tend to take to the extreme. But it is about receptivity and compassion. Those things are essential to move into the next iteration.
And is the key to that also finding that union within ourselves before union even with another, like that you come into your own union of your own masculine and feminine, aside from what others are doing, like you become your own safe space, you become your own container. Is that a key
Definitely.
shift of all, part of this shift as well?
You know, I saw something recently I'm going to share here because it's relevant. And it said, if you break an egg from the outside, you destroy it, right? You kill anything that would be in it. But if it breaks from the inside out, that creates life. So think about that, right? If there's a chicken there, it grows, it pushes itself out from the inside. So the answer to your question is yes, everything starts from the inside. This is an inside job. You're never going to see it in the outside world. Is only and always ever will be a projection of what's going on inside of you. So that's why I said earlier, if someone is being abusive or saying stuff, you need to look at what you're doing to you inside, because that is what is being shown to you. It doesn't make any difference what the content of it is. That may be completely irrelevant to you, but
Yeah.
it's the behavior, it's how are you treating yourself? What kind of respect do you have for yourself? What do you allow to happen in your own thought process? Because that is what you're going to see outside of you. It's always inside first.
So final 2026, have you any just few little words of encouragement, inspiration? It feels like they say we're in it. Well, we are in a 9 year, and there's this big conjunction of Saturn and Neptune on the 20th of February. They, the world acts as the start of something new. Does that
Exactly.
come
So
in?
I would say that between now and probably the end of March, that there may not be anything hugely massive that changes the whole entire world. However, I think that from March onward, things are going to change substantially in our world. Some people are saying that we won't recognize our world, but I know that the 7 years between 2019, like I said, there was 7 years between 2012 and 2019, the 7 years between 2019 and 2026, that's the big energetic shift. Then in 2027 is going to be like 2020, where it actually shows up physically. And by 2027 is when we're going to start to see things that we go, I can't believe I'm seeing this in my lifetime.
Okay.
So next year is going to be that really tumultuous year where things are coming in and out of, phasing in and out of frequency, because we're moving into such a different frequency. Things are, you may notice this yourself, and this is something that I would, can ask you to just pay attention to if you can, are things being lost in your life and then showing up in the weirdest places, or that you could swear that you did that, and then you find out later that you never actually did. This whole, have you heard of the Mandela effect?
Yeah, or something like you put something down, then it appears. Is it somewhere else? No.
Well, the Mandela effect is people who are remembering things very differently than they currently are, like authors in books,
Oh, yes, and you see different
movies.
titles of songs.
Right.
Stuff. Yeah.
So all of a sudden things are just going, wait a minute, that's not how I remember it. And yes, sometimes it's just memory is what it is, right? We all know that. But there are some things, and I'll give you, I know if we just have a few more
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
This one really blew my mind. I'm having a lot of this. I'm having a lot of things that are showing up and disappearing, and really just weird stuff, right? Things I know I just did. Like, it just happened to me last night. We changed the clock because the clocks changed while I was away. We changed the clock, and then the very next night, it was back on the old time. Now, this is a digital clock that we've had forever. You change it, it changes.
Yeah.
It was like, did we do it? We definitely did that. I watched my husband do it, and then the very next day, it was on the old time again. But this is the main one I wanted to tell you about. So I have, because I travel so much, obviously,
Mm.
I have a special backpack that I only take when I go on an airplane and I'm traveling someplace. And it's filled with things that I could, I'm an ex-pharmacist, so I'm always very like, I am very careful about making sure I have activated charcoal in case the tummy goes, and some first aid.
Mm.
There's just things that I always have with me when I'm traveling, and they stay in my special backpack. And I don't touch that backpack unless I'm getting on a plane. Okay, so that's
Mm.
just, and it's
Mm.
just there, right? And my computer comes in and out, and that's it. That's the only thing that changes, or a book. So anyway, before this trip, I've been having a little bit of trouble with my shoulder, and I thought maybe I should take some of the things out of my backpack, because it's just to make it a little bit less heavy for me to carry when I'm traveling. So I dumped everything out of the backpack and then only repacked in the things that I knew that I wanted to have with me so I could lighten it up. Anyway, we go through security and they flag my backpack. I'm like, I know every single thing that's in my backpack because I just emptied the darn thing. So I know every single thing. What in the world could they be flagging on that? Anyway, we come through and the guy looks at me and I said, what is it? I don't know what it is. Anyways, well, I have to find it, whatever. So he pulls out a kitchen shears.
Oh my God. Kitchen
This
shears,
big, this
like a
big,
knife. No,
right?
like a scissor.
Scissor, like
Scissors. Oh
this
yeah, yeah.
proper kitchen scissor. Now that kitchen scissor has been missing from my kitchen for 2 months. Okay. I completely blamed my husband for this because that's what I do. And I just was just like, he didn't put it back. He took it, he did something with it. But in my backpack, no one, why would he go in? No, why would anyone? You know what I mean? Nobody
Particularly
touches
going
this
through
backpack.
security, you wouldn't. Yeah, yeah.
And us through security in my travel backpack. I mean, come on. I am a seasoned traveler. I don't do things like that. So how did this scissor leave my kitchen and show up in my backpack? And I only just traveled a couple of months ago with that backpack. So what, none of this can possibly be made sense of on a logical place. But we are shifting around in frequency a lot now. We're moving in and out of realities like
Yeah.
this. And so things, and I see it now, instead of getting upset about it, as a game, because they're just little things that I'm kind of just taking note of in my mind about just how much the frequencies are shifting. And if you know it's coming, it won't be quite as jarring or scary, because people will start to, I think, question their sanity
Yeah.
around things, because
Yeah.
you know that you did that, or you never did that, or whatever the case may be. And then here you are dealing
But
with
that
it.
must have been but it was such an extreme example for you, would nearly be the case to say, look it, you didn't put it in, so
Yeah,
that you would know, because putting a big
yeah, exactly.
scissors is
It had
so,
to be extreme. It had to
yes,
be extreme,
for
and it
you
had to
to.
be like, here I was in security and they're looking at me with this, like, what were you planning to do with that, honey? Like, oh my gosh, nothing. I swear it's for, opening up packets of cat food. I swear that's what I use it for.
I'm sure they believed you.
Well, we had a little bit of a laugh with the security guy, because he was a nice guy, and I'm not
Yeah,
obviously not
yeah,
someone who's
not
going to use that for nefarious purposes, but this is the kind of stuff that can happen, and I think will continue to happen in
okay,
even
okay,
bigger ways, especially
okay,
next year. So to
yeah.
answer your question, that is one thing that people can kind of look for, is weird stuff.
Okay. But do you see the sort of, people say there's a lot, because of all these planets being retrograde, that the bulk of, let's say, clearing that we're feeling at the moment by February? Or is it just, look, I mean, no, that's maybe not a great question to be asking you, who, because there's so much happening. But I suppose there's something, it's like, it feels like on that day, the fact that the planets all, well, most of them, I think, align to sort of move together, that something
Yeah.
is taking off, let's say, but
Yeah, so
still
so that's really, I feel like a
starting.
springboard into
Yes, yes,
Aquarian Age,
yes,
is
better.
this February. That's when that
Yeah.
is really going to come
Okay.
into play again on an energetic level, not yet quite
Yes.
yet on a physical level. But that doesn't mean that people can't have access to some of these, how that might look, because in the Aquarian age is about autonomy. It is about sovereignty, and it's much less about giving your power away, which means, religious stuff is going to get hit quite hard with that. Which doesn't mean spirituality goes out the window, but it does kind of mean that these kind of interim people who are in between you and your divinity become less relevant. Let's just put it that way. So
Yeah.
that's going to be difficult for potentially for people to deal with. So there are
Mm.
things like that. And I think that's
Yeah.
what we're building. We're building, the energy is big right now, and we're really building towards some of these big paradigms, our financial system, our religious systems, our political systems, having big changes in how they function, because they're all based on this old patriarchal energy, which is leaving. So we have to we all have to readjust, and all of the things that we interact with on a daily basis also are going to have to readjust. And if you're following it, if you're kind of in pace with it, then it's not going to be nearly as difficult. Doesn't mean we won't experience loss, but it won't, you'll have a greater understanding of why some of these things are important to happen, regardless of whether or not we are enjoying them. They need to fall apart. So try not to focus so much on the destruction, and pay attention to actually what do you want instead, and do everything you can in your world, your little universe, to bring those things in on a regular basis. If you want more thoughtfulness, then be more thoughtful. Like that's how you do it, right? Like even Gandhi said that a long time ago, be the change. And it's still good advice. We if it's what you really want, don't wait for the world to bring it to you. And don't focus
Yeah.
so much on all of the loss, because there will be plenty of that, and you could get lost in that. But that's only part of the picture. So
Mhm.
discipline yourself to have balance in where you focus your attention, and it's not always on what's leaving, right? That
Yes.
let it leave, and focus on what you'd like instead.
Beautiful advice to finish on. Thank you. Because when you just said the leaving, you can see it, but what's arriving, maybe not physically there for you to see, but you can feel it and
Yes,
imagine it, I suppose, and dream it. That's
exactly.
so beautiful. Just that, and that discipline, we have our part to play, don't we, in
Everyone
that.
does. We're
Yeah.
all just as important. It's a tapestry made of all of us. So there's no one person or anything that is going to come and save us. And there's no one person responsible for any of this. This is a really big thing. And it's exciting, really, to be
Mm,
alive right now, and to be witnessing this is incredible. It
yeah.
truly is. It doesn't always feel that way, but it truly, truly is.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? And just taking maybe the attention off all of what you're being shown, because a lot of that is what's leaving, and the discipline is it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Liz. That was just phenomenal. A phenomenal way to end the year. And let's all get going together, doing our bit in our own little way in whatever is
Exactly.
coming up for us. So thank you. Thank you everyone for listening as well. As I said, I'll have the links to the first interview with Liz, and then the others are all on my channel. You'll find them under Liz Costa. So greatly appreciate Liz, as has you've said yourself, you don't do a lot of public. You're doing this, I know, out of your goodness of your heart. There is no requirement for you to do it, so it's deeply, deeply appreciated, and all of the time you've given today.
Oh, it's my
Uh,
absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
and hopefully we'll see you in 2026 as the ride
Okay.
continues.
Okay.
Take care for now.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.